I think we're live. I think so. I'm going to wait a moment or two. Today we've got a fantastic show lined up, one that I've been waiting for a little while. Two good friends of mine, Harry and Sean from Wesup in Torquay. They're relatively new to the Bay. I think they've been there for about a year, actually. They'll fill us in on the details of how long they've been there. But I wanted to have a discussion. It's mental health day to day. Sundays is always about mental health. So it's a very business related talk discussing the pressures of business, really, and the business and the pressures of partnerships and the benefits and the positives and the negatives and the inefficiencies that partnerships can bring, if any at all. That's what this discussion's about. We'll also be looking at how they've helped and been a part of the community in Torbay, and also just looking into their history, because they're both really interesting people. I personally like them because of the way that they communicate with each other. I think they're incredible partnership, and I think it's something that may be of value to people that are watching. As always, we aren't professionals in terms of like medical professionals. This is really just a conversation between three parties, how they've gone through life and maybe picked up some tools, navigated, and hopefully it's of some use. Feel free to ask questions throughout the video at any point. We're here, ready. Would love to answer questions, especially Harry and Sean. They're very wealth of knowledge, so please feel free to use it whilst we're on. I probably won't say too much more because I think it's probably best to hear everything from themselves. So I'll just give it another 30 seconds or so. I'll just do a bit more banter. So yeah, Sundays is Mental Health Day. We always orientate towards mental health, sort of helping support, offering tools. We've got some great shows lined up. We've got some music for you tonight. Let me just double check who we've got in tonight. I should have had that ready. Oh, there we go. Love me. But tonight we'll be engaged in loads of conversations. We try and get everyone involved in the conversation. So if later on you fancy actually getting on the show, please do. We can come on in a video sense, or we can just get you on board in a like a sort of like a phone call type thing. Really, we can hear you talk. People will be able to hear you talk, but we don't have to see your face if necessary. Why is my computer on today? I don't know if anyone's noticed, but Facebook's updated its look online. It's much easier, but it seems a little bit slower. Yeah, so tonight we got Tegan Paxton in. So go on the page, thevirtualpub.com. Sorry, the Virtual Pub on Facebook even. We don't have a website yet. And you can check out the events coming up. So without further ado, please do welcome Sean and Harry from Wesup. Hi, guys.
Yay!
Well, thanks so much for joining us. I realized before I started, I was like, right, we've got an event tonight. I should probably tell people about the event, and didn't actually have the event ready to tell everyone. So,
Charlie, can I just say that I think you're doing a fabulous job watching the Virtual Pub come to life, and your involvement into it. I've been following everything, so respect to you lot. I think you're doing a brilliant job, mate.
Appreciate, thank you. So, do you want to? It's really.
Oh, can I just say something?
Go on.
I like your face.
I don't mind starting like that. I love both of you and both of your faces. You're close friends of mine. I think best thing to do is to introduce yourselves, so people know who they're listening to.
All right, cool. So I am Harry. I'm one half of Wesup. I'm currently down in Cornwall, down in Falmouth. Falmouth's my hometown, so I sort of I'm down here enjoying the sunshine. And Sean is up in Torquay. Sean?
Well, it's not sad that I'm in Torquay. It's just sad that I'm locked up in this 2x2 square meter front room that we have. Yeah, I'm Sean. I'm the other half of Wesup, and I'm live from Torquay right now.
Is the weather as glorious as it is up here, Harry?
Oh, do you know what, mate?
Is it up? Is it down? Down, up?
It's always down.
It's always down.
I have this argument with so many people. Can someone agree with me in the comments if there's anyone listening? If you go from Cornwall further up the country, it's always up, right?
Everything up from Cornwall is north. That's why even Devon people are northerners.
I just always look at, you're always just looking at the very bottom end of the map. Obviously, you've still got a little bit to go. Katie, Louise, can you guys see the comments on the right hand side that they're coming in? So
Yes.
Highlight Katie, Louise. So we got the founder of Reform Charity in the comment section and viewing. Guys, if you're viewing, you got some questions, please do get the comments in. These guys are you guys have been in business for a long time, and we're going to broach the subjects of sort of business and how you guys do it. But if people have got questions, please do get them in. I think first of all, let's discuss. Katie's like, all right, my darlings. All right, sweetheart. All right, babes. Jack Watton. Oh, Jackie boy. How's it going? Guys, those people. Josh, always down if you go in Cornwall, mate. Yep. No, you're absolutely right. So you guys own a business called Wesup in Torquay, and you've got a couple other areas. Do you want to tell us about them? Tell us about what it is.
Go for it, Sean.
Oh God, don't, Harry, because I'll be talking forever.
Let's condense it down to what you bring to the table and where you are. We can discuss the integral parts of the business as we go through.
So as it stands right now, we have one beautiful centre down in Falmouth on the local beach called Gillen Bays Beach. That's where it all started 10 years ago, which is completely crazy when you think about it. And then we've got our second centre, which we opened in 2018, May 2018, up in Southampton on the Hamble River, which again is just, if you think of Southampton, you don't think of somewhere that is beautiful. It's very sort of industrial. That's at least what I thought about it. But the Hamble River is absolutely stunning. And then our third place in Torquay, Tor Bados for the locals. And we're down on the marina right next to the pavilion down there. So that's our third centre, and we opened that in May 2019. So about a year ago. A year ago?
It's coming up a year, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
The council should have let us open on May the 1st, right? So we were ready to go by then. So.
And it's these are stand-up paddleboarding centres. Is there anything different between the centres?
Yeah. So Gillen Bays Beach is an out lifestyle destination. It's a paddleboard centre. That's all we do there. And so is Southampton. They're kind of like lessons, hires, tours, and we run a club out of both of those as well. But then Torquay is a little bit different. It's what we call the mothership. So there, it's like that is like the ultimate lifestyle destination. It's a bar. Harry needs a wee.
No, Harry's cats clawing at the door. Like,
cat boy.
I want to get out of here. It was the cat's name. Sorry.
Don't get him started on cats, for Christ's sake.
Sorry, no. Let's keep this professional, people. Let's keep this on point. Right. Sorry.
Torquay is the mothership. It's if we were going to do Wesup to the very nth degree, that's what we've done at Torquay. So it's a bar, it's an amazing coffee house, it's a retail space, and it's an event space and the paddleboarding as well. So it allows us to combine the entire lifestyle opportunity of stand-up paddleboarding in one little roof, under one big roof.
Fantastic. And it's been, I mean, so Torquay is your mothership, but it's your third premises, right? So it's in succession, in order, sorry. So it's your last one that you've built, but it's turned into the mothership.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
We have this kind of we have this model, or at least we thought we had this model with Wesup, where essentially you convert shipping containers using sort of beautiful materials, aluminium bifold doors, and then we can put those containers in any sort of beautiful location. And that was absolutely what we wanted to do in Torquay. And we arrived in Torquay looking for a spot where we could sort of set up the way that we run our business. And then little did we know, behind us was this huge 350 square meter building that had just come available for a new lease. And so typical Sean and Harry style, we looked at it, obviously didn't have enough money to do the project, didn't really know where to start with the project, but we just looked at each other and said, yeah, we'll take it.
Obviously.
We don't have the capacity, we don't have the money, but we're doing it anyway.
That's right.
I like that commitment. And it was a new, and Torbay is a new venture for you as well, because you've never actually really spent any real time here. Is that right?
That's right.
We've been here. When we were driving down, our first time to Torquay, we were driving past all of the industrial estate up there where McDonald's is and everything. We were like, wow, Torquay's like a really big town or something. We were like quite amazed. We thought it was going to be a little seaside Victorian village.
That's right. And I had actually been to Torquay a few times, but not into the centre of Torquay. So I used to play rugby against Torquay, and the last time I came to Torquay, there was a bunch of fans watching the game from the sidelines, standing over a few crates of Carlsberg, and I tackled someone into them by accident, and the next thing you know, there was a really big brawl. So that was the only thing that I knew about Torquay.
I think we're also brushing over a comment from Katie here. Harry, your facial hair looks sick. You've gone for a tash and a little, is that a soul patch? Can we call it a soul patch?
I called it something else, but I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that at this time. Yeah, I had a beard, and then when you're in quarantine, you're just trying to think of things to amuse yourself, and I was trying to see how many different types of facial hair I could get off in one go, and this is what I was left with, which I feel like it's like a Three Musketeers kind of thing, you know?
I actually, do you know what? That's exactly what it is. You need like a pointy sword.
That's right.
No, but you're right. So you didn't really spend much time. Sorry, I went on a bit of a segue because I saw someone mentioning your facial hair, and I was just looking at it like, it's very good facial hair. No, but Torquay, it was a new venture, and you went big as well. You didn't just sort of do like a little. Not say your container's a little, but you didn't just set up a little container and start off small. Like, it ended up being your mothership in a town that is notoriously hard to generate good revenue from a business like that. And you guys have really stood the test of time. But I think what we do is we're going to come back to the runnings of the business and how it's been, and sort of, I think it's the basis of this conversation, as I said at the beginning, is really just to sort of get an understanding of working relationships, how it's affected you in terms of personal, emotional, physical response to everything you've done. You guys as a partnership as well, like starting this team together. And I think maybe it's best to start like at the start, maybe where you both started and how you both sort of came to know each other and how you set up a business together. So let's maybe start from there.
All right, Sean, take it away, brother.
I better take the lead. Hey, I'll try and round it up. So Wesup was a manifestation of kind of my most wildest dream of what I wanted to do when I exited my music career. I was working for Jim Beach, who is the manager and owner of Queen, and I was working with a band called Yellow Wire, who were amazing, and made some really good friends in there, Bobby Lucas and Ollie. And the time came for me to move out of London. My wife at the time was pregnant with our twins, and I needed to do something when I moved back to Cornwall. And I'd had an experience of stand-up paddleboarding whilst I was working with the band. And Ollie had got us all to dress up as Freddie Mercury and go paddleboarding for the day down at Gadreevy, surfing. And I just fell in love with it immediately. It was like, it really was love at first glide. And it so happened that at the same time we were shooting that video, a guy was at the top car park on his first stop of an expo tour showing Fanatic paddleboards. He came on the beach. He asked us if we wanted to use his boards to shoot this video with. And these boards had handles, so you could carry them with a handle. Well, this was absolutely mental novel at the time, because boards back then, over 10 years ago, never had handles. You had to carry them on your head or one between two. They were like these huge 12, 13, 14 foot monsters, like a Minnie Mouse style shape, with no handles. Massive oversight at the time. But anyway, Fanatic came along, and when he left, he gave me his card and said, if you ever need anything, let me know. I kept it in my wallet, and one day on the way home from London, because I was commuting to and from London and Cornwall at the time, 2 or 3 times a week, I'd kind of manifested this idea that I could create a paddleboard centre when I went back down to Cornwall. I brokered the construct of an idea to take over a buckets and spades shop on Gilly Beach with Simon Dorr, Simon Dorr owns the Gilly Beach Cafe, which is now like world famous, amazing beach cafe. I'd known him for a little while anyway. I'd worked with him. I basically asked him, I said, if you let me run your buckets and spade shop, that's going to save you a salary over the summer. And then, so you won't have to pay me, but just let me run my my buckets and spades. Let me run my paddleboards out of that shop, and I'll sell your buckets and spades as well. And he's like, he's Mr. Money. He loves money. And he was like, you're an idiot. You're mental. That's never going to work, but I'll take your money. Yeah, go for it. And so armed with the opportunity for this premise, I manifested this idea of how I would run this. I swerved off of the motorway, following this business card down to Brighton, knocked on the door. Next door to this house, this bungalow that I was in, I knew I was like somewhere super, super expensive. I recognized one of the houses from Grand Designs. This wasn't the one I knocked on, incidentally, but I didn't know who was going to open the door. And I pitched Wesup as this club and paddleboard centre to the lady who answered the door. And she was like, obviously you can tell the way I talk. I had done a lot of talking by this point. And she said, you better come in. So I came in and I reiterated this rant about Wesup. And I had X amount of money. Jim Beach, who was the owner of this record label I used to work with, he actually kindly gave me some money when I exited my job there, which was really kind of him. And I had a little bit of extra money. And I basically said, all the money I have, if you give me the same amount of money, then I can buy boards to sell. And if you lend me that money for the initial paddle boards, then I can do the rental and the lesson thing as well. And I think he thought I was so mad that he just had to say yes, because it turns out that this guy was Nick Baker. And Nick Baker was one of the world's most famous windsurfers of his day. He's an absolute legend. And I just didn't know who he was. I'm not sure I knew who he was for like another month. Turns out the guy who gave me the business card was actually his brother. So I'd followed this card to his office. So I'd knocked on the door of this professional windsurfer who's like big time. I pitched my idea for Wesup. He's gone, okay, you're mental, but let's go for it. And that was that. And 2 months later, literally, we launched Wesup. All the kit arrived. It was like the most insanely incredible Christmas I ever had. Wow. I think we had about 25 boards. They're all hard boards, combination race boards, touring boards, and whatever. And we had that first run of Fanatic paddleboards that ever came to the country. Wesup was actually the first dedicated year-round paddleboard centre to start operation in the UK. When we were on the water back then, I knew that when I was stood on the ocean on Gilly Beach, that I was quite literally the only person who would have been paddling at that time, because there was like Nick Healy and a few others. There was the guys up on London. They were in had a paddleboard. I wasn't the only person doing paddleboarding. There were a few. Then not quite a few. There were a few. I specifically remember the guys in Windsor at a yacht club. They were running a small paddleboard club. But it was quite amazing back then, thinking that absolutely no one even knew what paddleboarding was.
The dawn of it.
Yeah, like
the inception of it all, really.
Yeah, you don't get to be first at anything really nowadays. Everything's been done. Think of all the sports that have been done, and I don't think I realised the gravity of it at the time, but I definitely felt like if I loved paddleboarding that much, surely everybody else would love paddleboarding that much. Yeah. So Wesup was this name that was all about we stand up paddleboard. It was always a collective. It was always about you and me going paddling and about infusing lifestyle. I was planning to market the sport by bringing in all of my my contacts in major music and putting on music events and paddleboarding events, so people would gain exposure to paddleboarding through music. My background is a long time in music, and so we were Wesup, the funk of paddleboarding, and that is where it started 10 years ago. So that's how.
Wow. And then, so before we go on to how you guys met. Should we, Harry? What were you up to before all of this Wesup-ness?
Yeah, I was knocking about Falmouth. I've come from a family of traditional wooden boat builders, so that was kind of I guess what I was expected to go into, or at least it's all that I knew. So playing lots of rugby, had a dream of being a professional rugby player for most of my teenage years, but suffered with a bit of a bad attitude problem, which stopped me from reaching those goals. But yeah, I found a passion in building. So decided I didn't want to go down the boat building route. I had this dream of just wanting to build my own house. I don't know whether it was like that kind of feeling of like wanting to have your own castle. And if I was to build it myself with my own hands, that was really, really appealing for me. And it is actually still one of my dreams now. So I decided that I was going to have to build my own house. Then I had to learn how to build houses. So I sought out a friend of mine who I played rugby with, who had a construction company, and then just got to work. And that was 7 years of learning, really. And I just remember feeling, I can't believe how lucky I am that someone's paying me to teach me. I just thought that this was the most crazy thing. Like it was really good. I loved my job, actually. I really loved it.
Did you have to work your way up the ranks, or did you start off? Because I did labouring as a kid, and I was basically just used for my energy to move bricks and cement and sand from one end of a building site to the other. I'm sure there were days where there was no requirement for 400 kilos of sand to be moved from one end of the site to another in a wheelbarrow using a shovel and a wheelbarrow. But
that's right. Yes, my first ever job for this chap, Ben Ashford, he was called, good friend of mine still. I just was pestering him in the gym for about 2 weeks to give me a job, and eventually said, all right, do you know what? Yeah, there is a job, but it's about 3 miles away in this little village. He said, I can't get a mini digger around to the back of this bungalow, and then we need to dig out the back garden. So the only way to dig it out is to do it by hand, because there's no other way. And I was like, okay. I didn't have a car, so I had my push bike. And so I arranged to collect a shovel off him, and there's already a wheelbarrow there and a skip. And I actually duct taped the shovel to the top bar of my mountain bike, and then cycled to and from work every day. And he would just turn up sometimes, and it'd be like raining. And at that point, I didn't have any work boots, and I had these sick Nike trainers that I didn't want to get muddy. And the soil was so wet that I just wore no shoes. And I remember him turning up, and he was like, what are you doing? Like, it's raining, you've got no shoes on, and you're digging this back garden. I'm just like, I never really saw anything as a problem. I was just happy to be there.
That's a common theme on modern building sites. If you walk around them, everyone's wearing trainers, and the pair of trainers that they spent £120 on 6 months before. And in that time, then, Harry, were you sort of like a water sports baby, or what sort? You were into rugby, obviously, so that's very
much well, I was actually born on a boat, Charlie. Little fact about it.
Because of the boat building. So
I grew up. I mean, a water baby in its most literal term is me. So grew up sailing, being on the water, anything to do with the water, finding the biggest cliffs I could jump off. That was my life, was being next to the sea, really. So I've always had a real passion for it. Yeah.
And had you embarked in sort of stand-up paddleboarding prior
so
to meeting Sean?
Saw a paddleboard about Sean started Wesup 10 years ago. I saw a paddleboard for the first time 7 years ago, and I was in Australia at the time, visiting wife, thank you very much, who was out there traveling, and they were lined up at the side of this river in Perth, and I remember looking at them, just had no idea what they were. I was like, well, it's not a windsurfer because there's no sail. It's not a kayak because you can't sit on it. And I just had no idea what it was. And I ended up going to chat to the lady, and I was I had so many questions that she just wanted me to go out on it, and she let me go on it for free. And yeah, man, that first glide that Sean was talking about, I think I felt the same thing. There's something very special about it.
I did. My first stand-up paddleboarding adventure wasn't quite as, I wouldn't class it gliding. I think the sea was slightly too choppy. The board I was on was not maybe inflated as much as it needed it to be, and it was probably shorter than it needed to be. I'm not entirely sure it was a paddleboard, but I managed it. It was uncomfortable. I ached for about 2 days afterwards after being on it for about an hour. I literally went from Babacombe, from what's the beach with the beach lift going down to it? Oddicombe over to the other side.
50 meters.
To the pier. No, not even that far, to the pier. And I went back there and back, and it was choppy and it was windy, and my body hated me after it for a while. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I've since been out with you guys down in Torquay. We went around the marina not long ago. And
the last paddle we went on, Charlie, you were on it.
I was on that last paddle. I was in my work clothes. There's a photo of us on Facebook with me literally in my electrical gear, just with is it an oar? No, paddle. Sorry, course.
Oh,
paddle
Charlie.
boarding. Sorry. Hey, look. I'm an amateur. I'm an electrician. I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, and that was thoroughly beautiful, and to be on a board that was of quality, let's say, and blown up efficiently enough at least. But yeah, and you were teaching the techniques that I didn't realize that I didn't know, like long sweeping turns and short sweeping turns, all this stuff. And the way you articulated it was really clear. I had such a short training session, but it was very precise, and I gained a lot from it. So when we're out of this, I implore anybody to go over and check it out. But so now, sorry, little plug. Now that we've understand where you guys sort of did before all of this, when was your first meeting? Have you guys always been friends? Have you always known of each other, or did your?
Sean, can you remember it, Sean?
Funny enough, your story about your first building job recalled a memory of really our first proper connection. So Harry didn't like me when he first met me, and Harry's friends of rugby fraternity, and he had his friends, and they're all the friends he needed. And so anyone new coming into the group was like, "Who's this guy?" Well, I was friends with Ben Jordan, who's Harry's best friend, who's his best man at his wedding, his longest buddy, and Ben brought me into the group and was like, "No, give him a chance. You'll really like him." And look at Harry's eyebrows; they're really big. They do this. But basically, I needed a job. I can't remember why I needed a job, but just so everybody's clear on this, Wesup has been a real trial of attrition. It hasn't always been easy. It isn't ever easy. It's been really difficult over the years. I guess doing whatever you're passionate about is like that. But I needed a job, and Harry had a little job for me, didn't you, Harry?
I did. I thought I'd test out this new friend. I'll get him digging trenches in concrete.
You did
the job that Harry had when he first started building, literally palmed that job off to me. He must have thought he had arrived in life, because Muggins over here goes into the back of this yard, like literally keen as being, I want to earn this money. I'm going to show how good I am at this job. And he has me digging trenches. And in these trenches were these old Victorian terracotta pipes. Charlie, you'll know how hard these things are. Well, I'm with the can go. Nothing breaks these things. It's literally insane. And so I had that job there with Harry. And I think that probably, although I can't really remember the relationship after that moment, I think that's where we bonded, because I did work really hard.
Yeah, you definitely, you got my respect after that. And
how old were you both in this time? Sorry, just get an idea of ages.
So this was 4.5 years ago. So
really recent.
Yeah, 4.5 years. Yeah.
4.5 years ago, you had a kango in your hand and you were rattling off a terracotta Victorian plumbing pipe in his garden because he couldn't be bothered to dig a trench, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Nailed it.
Yeah. And I think, the truth be told, although I didn't show Sean at the time when I first met him what I really thought, I think, in fact, I think it was the second time we met. It was at the pub down in Falmouth. And I just kind of fell in love with Sean's passion. I wasn't really sure what Wesup was all about. I didn't quite understand it. I wasn't connected with it in any way. But after hearing his story and hearing what he wanted to achieve, I just remember having that feeling of being locked in to someone. Do you remember, have you ever experienced it where you're sat opposite and you feel like the whole world is like sort of nothing around you really matters. You're just so locked into what someone else is saying, that it just like, it was just really inspiring, mate. So I think that was when our relationship really started to form, because I thought, this guy's not only onto something, but he's not going to fail, because there's no way that this guy's going to fail. And I was just wanted to be involved in some way or another.
Did it matter what it was? Could it have been anything? You're like, I just want to be a part of this guy's life. I like where this guy's going. I like this guy's energy. And did you get I guess there was a quite cathartic process in just being around him, and in that process of I think when you attach onto someone's energy like that, you can't help but want to migrate wherever they go, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it was like, life is all about timing, and for me and Sean, it's just been good timing all the way through. So the moment where it came for us to come together on a project was, Sean, the project when Wesup became Big Wesup at Gilly Beach.
Yeah. So when we were operating initially out of this little beach shack. It was wicked. It was really cool. But Simon, who owns the cafe, wanted to take that back and turn it into a bakery. But we had a really long relationship, and we were really good for the beach. The beach before we arrived was being vandalized, it was being misused. There were lots of people having fires, and having Wesup on the beach gave the actual beach really good purpose. So we had a value to the beach and to his business, I guess. And anyway, he offered me the opportunity to take on the plot of land which was adjacent to the cafe, to the other side of the beach. It had some old dilapidated containers on it that the surf lifesavers used to use, and I think he had a bit of storage in one of the containers. And he gave us this plot of land, and we found an architect called Janie. And Janie initially drew us up these kind of like stick build designs. And in the end, I think it was going to be quite expensive. But Simon had said, if you find the money to build something on that plot of land, you can have that. And that was really, really generous of him. I mean, like, this is prime real estate in probably one of the most expensive maritime towns in Cornwall. And he gave us this plot of land to build on. Wow. So he said, if you can find the money to build, you can do it. Now that year, I had just made money at Wesup. It was the first time I was about to go, great, I don't have to worry about the winter. But as with every other year subsequently, I had to invest all of that money into building this container conversion. And we had made contact with a guy known as Oinky, all right, Martin. And Martin basically was looking at starting a project of converting shipping containers. And this was, 4.5 years ago, however long, I think it's 4.5 years ago. Hey, Aaron?
Yeah.
Something like that. The shipping containers have become really popular, and it actually came as a business in Cornwall called Spaces, who really popularized container conversions. And we had this idea that shipping containers would be really robust. And Martin helped us come up with an idea where we would engineer these 2 40-foot shipping containers, cut the middle out, put them together. We'd end up with one big cube space. So we have this really industrial looking exterior. And then we would build something really beautiful inside. And at that time, I had this vision that if we were going to be the first in the country to build a specific purpose-built stand-up paddleboard centre, we had an opportunity to do it different to how any other water sports centre would do it. And so I came up with this brief that was basically quite as simple as, well, what would Steve Jobs do? And we decided that we would go down this route of design and technology. And so we thought we would have the most beautifully designed water sports spaces and fill them with great functional technology to support people into their activities. Now, Harry, obviously, we were actually mates by this point. He initially came on board, and Harry, was it for the price of a membership or something?
I think it was for the price of a membership originally, and then after we completed the build, united me with my first carbon fiber paddle as well.
Yes, and Harry helped me fit out the first version of Wesup Gilly Beach. And so that's how our working relationship started. That's what got us talking about Wesup as closely as we did. Then we had an opportunity, Harry, didn't we? I can't remember if it was Sri Lanka first or if it was over on not St Maur's.
There's been a few failed opportunities come and go.
Those first, so basically, Harry and I were looking for an opportunity to work together. And I'll tell you the one that's most easy to remember. There was an opportunity for us to replicate the Wesup model in Sri Lanka with this hotel that was just being built. The guy was called Joe Coyne, who had invited us into the opportunity. And this is what caused the catalyst for big change for Harry and his now wife, Yana. So we had written the pitch deck for Wesup Sri Lanka, and it was going to be this retreat where people would come on this experiential holiday and they would go paddleboarding in the mangrove forests and on tours to go and see elephants, and we were going to do yoga and all sorts of stuff under candlelights on beach. It was a really beautiful, fantastic plan. And we were in. We were like literally, I think, a month from booking the tickets and going. Harry had quit his job. Yana had quit her job. She was a dental nurse. So Harry had told his boss, Ben Ashwin, sorry, Ben, that I'm leaving to go and follow my life as a paddleboarder. And the whole thing fell through. And it was devastating, wasn't it, Harry?
It was devastating. But that's what sort of kick-started our working relationship, because we worked together to kind of put together this whole retreat. And it started to give me an understanding of how Sean worked, which was a crazy experience, because essentially we'd finish work, our day jobs, go around to Sean's flat, and we would just start discussing and writing out all these plans for this retreat. We had never run a retreat in our life. I mean, I was just a builder, for Christ's sake. And we would work late into the night. And I remember thinking, like, this guy's mental. Like, I can't even think past 8 o'clock. But this is the point of the story, is like we started to realize how each other worked. And that was definitely the journey of understanding, because, man, otherwise our working relationship would be where it is right now.
And I guess that first project as well sort of highlighted your skill sets where you can sort of take support from each other. So like in terms of the building and the actual fabricating side of things, I guess Harry took the forefront, and then with the sort of orientating and the management side of things, was that more yourself, Sean?
Well, way back then, I mean, yeah, I was still winging it, whatever the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
Well, I was being Harry Labour, or I was winging it in my business. I have no idea, but I was doing something. I was doing something all right. And yeah, so those early days, just Harry and Yana both dealt with the collapse of that first idea with such amazing humility. They really took it on the chin, and it didn't stop the desire or the ambition to be connected. They didn't fall out with me and said, because I just quit my job, and it actually turned out to be, Harry will reference timing quite often, I'm sure, but timing couldn't have been better, especially for Yana, Harry's wife. She was pretty unhappy in the job she was in anyway, but you know what it's like when you're in a job, it's hard to change it sometimes. This was a catalyst for her to change that, and she changed it, and she got a way better job. It's ended up giving us such great opportunities, but that really stemmed from there. So we managed to stay really good friends. At the time, I remember it being really traumatic, and I felt so guilty, as you can imagine, because like I was leading them, to the other side of the world. And then I'm let down, and these guys are let down. It was awful, but we were really well bonded after that experience. It's quite.
You've had that failure, right? And then you've seen how each other have reacted in that failure, and that sort of almost is a glue for anything in the future. You've shared that experience. You've overcome it together, not just between you two, but also as a collective in terms of you guys in your relationships as well. You guys seem to have this real transparency between you with yourselves, and you seem to all be pulling it like a part of it, I guess. And I guess
plus, he's a bloody good builder. He did a sodding good job of Wesup Gilly Beach.
And that's still there?
Still there. It's absolutely flying. Yeah, it's stunning there. Yeah, it's had a few different iterations. Harry did the last one that we did. We had a really great retail space in there, but there's no passing trade on Gilly Beach as such. So we got rid of the retail and changed the whole place into this space where people could just be. We put seating and all that sort of stuff in there to allow people to just come and hang out in there and make it a real cool clubhouse. We built like a coffee station, and it got just 10 times cooler, didn't it, Harry?
Yeah, man, it really did. So yeah, leading on from that, then really the kind of, I still wasn't a part of the business per se, but I guess what happened, because it was such an organic relationship that we were having, I showed a real interest in the business. We knew that we wanted to work together, but I was earning really good money in the building trade. Sure, I couldn't really give that up and sort of jump ship as, like, say, an instructor or something like that. But we never really kind of questioned it. Sean never promised me anything. I never looked for it, but we just continued to connect about the business. And I was learning an awful lot from him. And I guess in a way, Sean, I probably became a bit of a kind of business confidant type person. You would sort of call me and ask my opinion on things. Yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, because Falmouth is a really funny place, Charlie. It's extremely beautiful, super vibrant, but there's this amazing transient demographic of people. You got the students, and then you got the tourists, and then you got the locals. So there's a really good local base there, which keeps the town really well energized all year. But then you've got this amazing ebb and flow of tourists and students. The students come, the tourists leave, the tourists come, the students leave. And it's kind of that flow. What was happening for me, having been in that town for so long, I was meeting these great new friends coming into the town as students. And I was quite a lot younger when Wesup first started. I was 25 or something like that. I could pass as a fresher. It was like totally legit. But I spent 6 years being a fresher, Charlie. And that became rather unsustainable. And worse still, I was just making and losing a lot of friends. There a lot of really good humans have come into my world in Falmouth. And then they've moved on to go to London or to Bristol or whatever to fulfill their kind of creative careers. And I was about to leave Falmouth because I was just sick of feeling so lonely, of losing really good friends. And then Harry and Ben and Ben Tullen and Ollie and all those boys came into my life just at the right time. And so Harry definitely became a confidant for me. I didn't have very many really good friends. I had Liam Brennan and Dan and a few of those other old school crew. But Harry and his crazy crew just brought something that was pretty special to my life. They weren't boring, put it that way.
So they were sort of the catalyst in the creation of something that you had yearning inside of you, and they gave you that energy in terms of like that emotional support, and also gave you that physical support in terms of like, let's get this done. Let's get this on. And I think sort of Katie Louise, she's just asked, what do you think makes a good working relationship? Are you similar or different in how you both approach things? And this is really getting to the crux of this conversation for me, at least.
Okay, so in a sentence, we are opposite. It is amazing to think how our working relationship has grown over the years, and it's only been a few years. We're still learning every single day. I think me and Sean, like, quite literally are the yin to the yang. We approach things almost from opposite ends of the spectrum, and we've had to develop and learn how to meet in the middle and to teach each other different ways of dealing with things or different ways of understanding things. And ultimately, we have a common goal, which we both believe in and we're both hugely passionate about. But without each other's other opinion, we would never have come as far as quickly as we have, both personally and in the business. Our personal development, I speak for myself, has been quite extravagant over the last few years. I've changed completely as a person, I feel, in a brilliant way.
In what way? Can you go into that?
Yeah, of course. I think I was from a small town, and I had a great big group of friends. I was popular in school, and I didn't ever really think to look outside of my box. I was kind of like quite linear in the way I thought. I was joking about me not liking Sean. It was just because, I didn't feel like I needed anyone else in my life. And I was just young. I was young and reckless, man. My life was pretty wild.
I've spent time there. You guys are absolute savages in the best way possible. Like you, in the nicest way. Savage is probably the wrong word, but you are hilarious. I've been down Porth Leven with you boys a couple of times. Some memorable times. You've shown me some things that I didn't know people did.
Yeah.
Cornwall's just got some amazing ports and towns and villages, man. You guys have got a real community down there, and
yeah, it's been great. I think, especially as a young man, I think women, they kind of like, they're way more switched on than us boys. For I don't know what it is. You get to your sort of mid-20s and something inside your mind starts changing. You start sort of looking at the world maybe in a slightly different way, being more open to other things and other people. And yeah, I'm most definitely still on that journey for sure. But I'm loving it. It's almost like a challenge, like being a better person, waking up each day and trying to be better each day is almost addictive.
So has it been plain sailing through the whole process with Sean? Have you had like some real lows together, or have you had your own lows? What trials and tribulations have you guys hit? You must have had some lows. I can't believe.
Oh man, me and Sean, we've cried in each other's arms more times than I think I've just cried in general. And because it's an emotional roller coaster, man. Running your own business, the highs are high and the lows are low, and they can change throughout the day. They do change throughout the day, every day. And you've really got to learn how to manage them. And if we didn't have each other, I don't know how people do it by themselves. I honestly don't.
Yeah, I've seen both ends of the spectrum. You know, I've had business partnerships before that haven't worked out for one reason or the other, and you really have to connect on a common goal, and you really have to kind of your motivation for your human and for the kind of the environmental stuff that you want out of your actual life. It has to really resonate with each other, and that has to be a common language throughout all your relationship. Your relationship with your business partner is no different, in my opinion. Sorry, Laura, to like other than the good bit. You know, it's very, very emotive, and when you're doing something that is so driven by passion, and it's so important to you, and you know, when this really is what you really want from your life, when you're that hungry, the ability to communicate and share experiences is just priceless. I don't know how I ran any aspect of a business before I had Harry. There's lots of things that I just wasn't doing and couldn't bring myself to do. I've always been very good at connecting with people. I've been a good paddleboarder, and I've really understood why I want to paddleboard and why I want this to be my life. But actually, when it comes down to running a business, it requires so much more than passion alone. Having that person like Harry to bring me back down to the sensibilities of the things I have to practically do is priceless. We've used this great term since I think it came up in our very first ever conversation together, where we actually said we would have to be the yin to each other's yang. We would have to round each other's edges off, because we're both quite big characters. I mean, we're both big characters. You've got me over here, hyper emotional, and you've got Harry over on the other end of the spectrum, who is emotional within. And so we kind of like, sometimes it could be very difficult to understand each other's emotions when you deal with them so differently. So we had to really listen, and I think Harry and I have had to really work at understanding what you're really trying to say, because like we trust each other. We've had so many experiences where we've known what the outcome needs to be, and we know we both want the same result, but fudding our way through the planning part, like how do we get there, is sometimes quite difficult. We came to this amazing realization actually in Torquay when we were doing this build, didn't we, Harry? I do not have a three-dimensional or visual mind for building. So let me put this in perspective. We tested this with Ben Cullen. I don't know if he's watching now, but he verified this thought. So when Harry goes to build anything, Harry has not only priced it all up and sourced all the materials in his mind, he's also managed to like put a 3D vision of the whole thing once it's built together, right? So he's literally built this worktop and he's flipped it around, he's got all the measurements, he's gone, right, that will look that right when it goes in there. I do not have that 3D capacity. We were testing it by trying to understand if we could get a pink elephant to fly across the room in our minds. And I got like this weird stick 3D drawing, 2D drawing of an elephant that is like not even flying, it's just there. It won't move, it won't do anything. He's got this elephant in like sequins, and it's in like little wings, and it's like going off around the room, and he's gone in his mind. So he's able to like really strongly visualize this plan. So in his mind, it's so easy. But me, I need to draw it. I need to get the measurements out. I need to put it on a physical thing before I can go through the plan. And you either have to do one of two things. You have to trust that the other person has manifested the best, most cost-efficient, and quickest way to get that job done, or you have to do it your way, and you have to write it all down, and that's just the way it's going to be. Over the time, since Harry and I have been doing quite a lot of these kinds of projects, we've managed to trust each other enough to know that we both want the same outcome. So absolutely. Listening to each other, regardless of if you think one way is right or not, definitely enables you an optimal amount of efficiency to get that job done that you can't imagine until you really are forced to work that closely with it.
That's a huge level of trust as well, isn't it? Because I'm in the trade, and by ourselves, we go out and we sort of forge our own lives. And generally, we are the conductor, we're the driving force behind all of it. Our decisions are our own. Generally, we obviously listen to people. But in a business sense, I've just set up a new business with a business partner. So this is all new to me as well. But it's handing over that trust. It's like going, okay, hold on. Now you're going to be responsible in some way for my financial future and the business's future. And that's a big ask. It's a big ask, especially from someone that's had to do a lot of it themselves. I had to do a lot of it myself. I've had support here and there, but and that was a big part for you guys as well. Then yourself, Harry.
Yeah,
as well.
Relinquishing control, I think, is another way of putting it, isn't it, Charlie? In a way.
Yes, exactly that. It's that. Yeah, exactly that. Relinquishing control, and
I think relinquishing control. I struggle with that. I still struggle with it now, but I work on it quite a lot. But if you have trust with someone and you know that they're going to do it to the best abilities and they want the same thing as you, then you just have to let it happen.
Sorry, go on, carry on, please. Sorry.
And also, if you don't get the best outcome, if either of you make mistakes, that's where all of your learning comes in. I know sounds a little bit cliche, but you truly learn everything from the mistakes you make. And as long as you're able to make mistakes, sit back, talk about it and reflect on them, then you can just move forwards together. We've never learned anything when it all goes right, have we?
Two things really. I think it's a fair assessment then to say that you guys have worked on your business and work relationship and sort of friendship as much as you've worked on the business aspect of it as well, in terms of actual input into the business. It sounds like you have to really work with each other to get the common goal achieved, right?
Yeah, we're massively close. Yeah, Harry is my family. He is my brother, and that has been prevalent since we started in business. It's been absolutely 100% unadulterated trust. And when you trust somebody, when you have to trust somebody like you do when you're in business, you have to just surrender all of it. You can't just give a little bit of it. What is the point? Then there'd always be a little bit of doubt. We talked about it earlier, but when Harry was coming on board with the business, it was never a case of, well, Harry, you just have 10% and I'll have 90% because I started business. It was like, we are in this together. We're 50-50. We have to go forward knowing that we are equally invested, because this is not about money. This is about our lives. And so if you have the trust and you have the respect, then you naturally end up just having love in the middle. You can't help it. So
effectively, sorry, Sean, apologies.
No, go.
You're effectively handing over responsibility of your well-being, as well as your sort of money responsibilities, your family's responsibilities. Like, it's not just a business; it's your business is your life, effectively. So that trust is such a big thing. And the second thing I wanted to touch on was you mentioned a couple of partnerships in the past hadn't worked out. Could you go into those? Is there like a common theme in those as to why they didn't work out?
Charlie, do you want to know how many jobs I've had?
I would love to know.
Sean was a milkman.
What?
Do you want to hear a funny story, Charlie? Do you want to hear a funny
I see
story?
you as a postman, but a milkman. Fair enough.
Charlie, I'm going to tell you this story really quickly. All right. So I started off my working life, well, as a paper boy when I was 14, but I joined the Navy when I was 17. And when I left the Navy, when I was just over 20, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a butcher's apprentice when I left. I did a roofing apprenticeship with Simon Gray. I did a pavement and patio apprenticeship with Sean Barber. And I ended up, in the end, working with my friend Lee. We had a reuse and recycling business called The Junk Man. And we simultaneously bought a milk ground in St. Just. Now I'm going to tell you this story about the milk ground. So we had planned to basically buy this milk ground in the winter, build it up and sell it in the summer. And so we bought this milk ground and it was winter. We're driving around in our little Suzuki pickup thing. Wicked fun, rear wheel drive in the snow out in St. Just. For anyone who doesn't know St. Just, it is like the ass end of Cornwall. It's properly at Land's End. And as we were going through the round, through the winter and into the spring, the lights started to get earlier, and we started to see people, and people started to see us. And this was quite novel. And then one day, Mrs. Gelbert, who lived in Pendeen, pulled me in her house, and she said, "Here, Sean, come in a minute. I'll have a little chat with you." And I'm like,
sorry.
All right, this is the first person I've spoken to. But just to go back a touch, people had started dropping off the milk ground. We were starting to lose business, and we had no idea why. So Miss Gelbert pulls me in, and she said, "Here, Sean, so I just had Miss Pendeen on the phone." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Here, do you know a black man's delivering the milk to you?" And I'm sat there, and I'm like, "All right." And she goes, so I said to her, so she said to me, "Well, what do you think about it?" And Mrs. Pendeen had said, "Well, I'm going to give you a chance."
Oh.
So because Mrs. Gelbert, told Mrs. Pendeen that she would give the black milkman a chance, everybody else in St. Just and the subsequent little boroughs decided to give me a chance. So then from that point on, everybody started to come out of their houses and invite me and Lee. This was Lee, my very good long friend from Cornwall. He was my business partner. They started coming out and inviting us in for cups of tea and giving us cake. And this is like 5, 6 in the morning, right? It ended up taking me an extra 2 hours of my morning to get my round done. And it was a really massive epiphany in my life that Cornish people who live in the arse end of nowhere are not systemically racist. They are scared of things they don't know. And once they got to know me, they were like my best friends. They would look after me on my round accelerator. It was amazing. We sold the round on, but it taught me such a big lesson. And that was my first business partnership really was there. And me and Lee are still really great friends. He had gone through a relationship issue. I probably did at that time as well. And we're still great friends now. So, that was that. But sometimes business just happens that way.
It sounds like, I mean, coming back to you, I'm gonna watch this back and I'm gonna laugh at that segment again because your impressions for one.
Milk coffee, Harry.
You have black man delivering a milk. That's blown my mind. But just to sort of segue back, well, not segue, but to bring back to sort of like your working relationship. It sounds like at first in my experience, I've myself have sort of gone down the road of I've got an idea of where I want to be. I've worked with people, and I've almost tried to not manipulate in a deceiving or deceptive or malice way. Just like you try and manipulate the narrative to your end game, what you perceive and what you think is the right way, and you try and sort of coordinate everyone around that idea. But with you guys, it really sounds like there isn't much of that. You've both got ideas, you're both transparent and open with them, and you discuss them. It's sort of like, I think what I'm getting at is you're listening to each other.
Yeah,
really definitely. Listening to each other.
Yeah, Wesup is just a constant evolution, you know. So we went from going up to Southampton and creating another sort of mini replica of Gilly Beach, which was just immensely popular the moment we opened its doors. But then when we came to Torquay was literally venturing into the unknown. So we had all this space and we didn't really know what to do with it, but we knew we really liked coffee. We knew that we really liked nice stuff. We knew that we wanted to be more than just a sort of paddleboard centre. We wanted to be a place for people to come and hang out with us and really live out that lifestyle. And so we basically had to listen not only to each other and test things, but also listen to everyone around us, listen to the community, listen to what the people of Torquay actually wanted. And that went horribly wrong so many times. It really wasn't successful when we opened our doors in Torquay, man. We had so much food out on our first day. We had so many staff ready. I think there was like 8 of us in there. And we just assumed, because me and Sean are always the optimists, that we're going to open up our doors to Torquay and there'd be like a queue down the car park of people just wanting to buy our services and experiences. And that didn't happen. And it didn't happen for quite a long time.
It didn't happen until after the new year.
No.
I remember coming in when you guys sort of first opened. I'd never met you guys before. I'd never heard of Wesup. I didn't realize it was a paddleboarding place. I can't actually remember the first time I was actually there. I think it was it the meetings you were doing? Because you guys, this is sort of segueing into where we want to go in a minute. And you know what? I'm going to leave it because I want to come back to that in a second, because I want to touch a little bit more on, whilst we're in the segment of like the relationship and the pressures of business. I want to talk about the stress a little bit, and then I'm going to segue into us and the future holds for Wesup and where we want to go. But Harry, I know we were speaking before this a live airing, and we discussed sort of how stress had affected us. Like, I've been stressed out. I ended up with alopecia and all sorts, and I had to take just some like time out. And you had a similar situation, is that right?
Yeah, the build of Torquay, huge. So it's this huge building, and we actually did a build there that was about 8 weeks long. So it was a big undertaking, and we slept in the building. We slept in this corner of the building, and we just went to sleep in our work clothes, got back up, and started again the next day. And there was sorry, mate.
Big up Jim Beach.
Oh, so many. Oh, nice. What's going down?
In a really sensitive moment, I've decided to press the wrong buttons on what we can see. So I apologise for ruining the continuity in this conversation. Probably the most poignant part.
Jim Beach and Ben Cullen.
Yeah. It was a labour of love. We roped in a few really close friends. They came up and they slept with us in the build. We would sort of. It was hectic, actually, and there was so much pressure on it because we were spending so much money. And in any investment you make, you have to have a return at some point, and we didn't know when that return was going to come. So essentially, you are just spending and spending and spending and spending with no real understanding of when that's going to come back around again. We always knew it would, but it was hard, and we were putting in some crazy hours. And I ended up just I got full sort of scalp of psoriasis, which I've never had before in my life. And I just got really, really run down. Yeah, I've never sort of experienced, I don't think I've ever experienced depression or anything like that, but there was just this overbearing weight on my shoulders that I just could not shift, and you can't seem to bring yourself out of that. And Sean couldn't bring me out of it because he was experiencing it with me.
What about your partner? Could she bring you out? Was it tough on you guys as well? Are you
yeah,
about this? I don't know how far you want to go. I think it's poignant.
Yeah, it was really tough. You can always get support. Everyone around you shows you a huge amount of love. and support, and they give you a cuddle when you need it, and they feed your belly when you need it. But I think I never really let on to how much it was affecting me. Maybe I was in a little bit of I didn't really know how much it affected me, or I didn't want to tell people. And you just kind of have that mentality of just keep on keeping on, you know. There's a task we need to do, there's a job we need to complete. I don't care if it's going to kill me, because I just need to complete that job. But yeah, you need a support network.
Absolutely.
Luckily, as Harry and I have that same deterministic drive, like this innate drive inside to not stop until the job is done. We've learned that about each other when we built the Southampton Centre, because it was pretty much the same up there, wasn't it, Harry? We ate and slept and just did building for 10 days until it was done, and we were dead. When we said, never again, we're never going to put ourselves through all of that torture ever again. And then we did Torquay.
But more than that, like, I sort of had met you guys in the early parts of Wesup after you guys completed it, and the thing that I really noted was that you were both really open. You didn't really seem to hide anything. There was no underlying anger or resentment that was notable or palpable, at least. And that's sort of one of the reasons why I wanted to get you guys on. Why I feel like I get with you guys, because I just felt like it was there's an air of transparency between you both, and I really valued that. And I hadn't really seen it much before in business sense when I've been around other business partners. It's generally like, right, got to be strong. Don't want the family to see as a weakness or anything. I just want to keep stiff upper lip. But you guys seem to have like this real, like, you were connected to each other and connected to the people around you that you're working with, and it was really I don't know. I didn't feel like I misunderstood you guys. I felt like I was like, okay, I get these guys, and it was just really like a vulnerability almost. But it was easier for me to have a rapport with you.
I think Harry and I, we are who we are, and the reason that our business has been successful the way it is now is because it's just totally authentic. It's two guys with regular lives trying to do something that's quite extraordinary. We're insanely passionate about it, but we're trying to support our kids. Harry's trying to support his cats. We're trying to like kind of do something that we're really, really passionate about. But we are just humans. We love people. We love the environment. We love what we do. And if that doesn't come across, then what would our brand stand for? We wouldn't have done 10 years without that being really, really front loaded in our approach. It's not a conscious effort.
So sort of coming out of the intrinsic moving parts of this machine that you have in Wesup and you guys as a relationship, like where do you see Wesup going? What's the destination? I know you guys are actually quite heavily involved in some recent sort of projects, community projects as well in Torbay. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah, I think Wesup, as the name suggests, has always been about people. And again, going on what Sean was saying, like the way that we conduct ourselves and the way we conduct our business with all of that authenticity is about bringing people in. That's what we get our kicks out of day to day. Every person that comes through the door, you give them something and then they give you something back. It's a really, really special
energy, isn't it?
It is a transfer. Yeah, it's great. And coming to Torquay, and all of the sort of struggles we had when we first opened the business, we didn't really understand the demographic. We didn't understand some of the problems that Torquay had, or we didn't really understand the great things about Torquay. We just didn't know. And when we started to gain a little bit more traction and people were using us more and we were being us to every person that came through that door, like, we had the time, because we weren't busy, to talk to everyone and to connect with everyone. And we just started to build this kind of community hub unknowingly. We had no idea that we were doing it. And that's kind of just grown and grown and grown. And we never knew how needed that was in the area until people came in time and time again and they said, man, this is great. Like, this is exactly what Torquay needs. And we hear it so often, and we never really thought about it too deeply because we were just being us and we were just doing what we were doing and doing what we loved. and connecting with people. And might be a good time to bring in Reform, right? And Katie.
100%.
Hell yeah.
A great segue into Reform, because you guys, it was announced, I saw it on Facebook a couple of days ago. I literally was like, what? No way.
I know. Yeah.
Super excited. But Katie, who we had on the show last Sunday, we had a big discussion with her about her charity Reform. That's RE the number 4. ORM Reform. We had a big discussion with her, great chat, loads of people got engaged in it. And you guys are now aficionados. You are directors.
I know, crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, Katie, man. Like, Katie came in pretty early on, to be fair, and she is a special person. She is so passionate, and she literally lights up every room. And she spent some time working from our place right at the very beginning of Reform. And again, we didn't know anything about her or Reform or what she was trying to achieve. And we didn't know how long she'd been doing it, or she didn't know anything about us or our business. But we just knew that, you know, that we liked each other. We love spending time with each other. She cracks me up every single time we're around her. All right, my darlings. And and so again, like, unknowing to Sean and I, we were kind of watching and being involved with the development of Reform.
She had a party at ours.
She had a party at ours, that's right.
When she pitched the party, when she pitched the concept of Reform at that party, that's when both Harry and I really came alive to what she was doing in the community. And she was connected to some other people who we already knew as other business owners in the community, and we were like, oh, this thing sounds really cool. And Harry's a bit of a charity skeptic because of all of the money that goes up to the top. But even Harry really connected to Reform immediately. And
it's hard not to. It's hard not to when you actually sort of if you actually delve into what the charity does and how many people it's supporting and the types of people that it's supporting. I mean, do you want to just give a quick outline? If we'd try and condense it into like a minute of what Reform do, because if you want to know more about it, please do check into the show last week. It was last Sunday. Go into our events page on the virtual pub page. I'll put a link to it as well in the comment section in a moment. But yeah, if you could just give us a summary of what they do.
At this moment in time, what they're doing is, I think it's between 600 and 800 meals a week, giving out to the most vulnerable and the people that need it most within Torbay, which I'm not sure if any of you guys are following them on social media, but what Katie and her team are doing is quite unbelievable. The community effort that's being pulled together from local businesses, people just volunteering their time, people making the food, people delivering the food, is magical and really inspirational to watch. But there's going to be a development of the Reform bus, which is going to be this sick hub, which can basically be cruising around Torbay and the local area, just connecting the people that need to be connected, using people like Wesup to enable people the chance to experience life on the water, using people doing sort of live cooking classes and showing people how to make healthy meals that are really cost effective. She's just bringing people together, and it's all fronted by Katie, who is this like powerhouse, mate. She gets shit done. She's formidable.
And what a great person to chat to on a platform like this as well. She's full of energy. I really encourage you to watch the video back. I'm going to find it in a second. I'm going to put it on. Oh yeah, sorry. She's just clarifying. The tour bus that she's got is, well, the bus she's got for Reform is UB40's old tour bus with apparently
unbelievable.
So we're going to have some kicking systems in there.
What's really pertinent about our relationship with Reform, you know, it's as much as we are obviously attracted to Katie's energy, she's answering a really important social issue. And it's about hidden poverty, which is what I really connect with. So Wesup as a brand had a choice. We could chase money or we could do what we do. And chasing the money would have meant that we would have gone to all of the schools and we would have worked with all sorts of people from disadvantaged backgrounds and all that sort of stuff. And in the end, we decided, you know what? There's a whole bunch of people who need the benefits of Wesup, who are people just like me, just like Harry. We don't earn a lot of money at all. So there have been months, I don't mind telling you, where me and Harry have paid all of the staff and we've got 36 pence in the bank, and we've just cried. Harry and I didn't pay ourselves for about 3 months really recently, nothing. And so in the end, there are people out there who work really, really hard, who just keep enough money to run the car that they've got on the driveway, to keep the roof over their head, and to keep the kids in presentable school clothes. But once they've done those very base jobs of running their family, there is nothing else. And if things go wrong, anything that's out of their control, I think Katie said that they're 3 paychecks away from literal poverty, and some even less. If something goes wrong in their life, the car breaks down, or somebody becomes really poorly and can't go to work, these are really big problems. And there are so many people like me and Harry, we can identify with these people who are living paycheck to paycheck, who need support. And they're proud people. They're people who are working hard. They don't deserve to be having to live in such hardship, worrying about when they can feed their kids, because they are legitimately doing the work. They're not asking the government for anything or asking for handouts from anybody. They're just grafting, just being good humans.
And the numbers involved, the numbers of people involved in the, Katie's having to supply 600 to 800 meals a week because there are, is it 6,000 children in Torbay?
It's insane. It's insane amount of people. And so like we Sup and Reform are championing the everyday person, and that's where our synergy is. Now, for Harry and I, obviously coming on board as directors sounds all fancy pants, but Katie is the face, the driving force, and all of the energy that Reform ever needs. What our relationship with Katie is about is extending the relationship that Harry and I have together. Katie's been doing it pretty much alone, and she's had as in directing the course of the business. Having a confidant to share hard problems of a business with is really important, as we've already talked about, and that's really where mine and Harry's role will come in, supporting her through those kind of times when she needs a shoulder to cry on.
We actually touched on that in the conversation earlier on prior to this online chat we've had live, and it was that what I realized the huge benefit of being in a partnership is that it gives you, if something stressful in your life happens during a work time, your partner is there to give you the time to be able to deal with the emotional requirements that are needed in that moment. When you're on your own, you sometimes don't have the capacity to just go put tools down. Like if you're self-employed, you can't just go, going to put tools down, fine, I'm going to deal with father passing away or an illness, broken leg, something, and just having that partnership allows you to be able to deal with those feelings in the moment at that time without having to suppress and distance yourself, at which point they become then like real negative energies that are just dragging you and being a real impedance on your life, right? So you guys coming in now allows Katie to sort of have that support. She's that support for you guys. You guys have got that support between yourselves. Partnerships and community is just so important, and it highlights it.
Yeah, and can I also say, like, this community is worth supporting big time. Like, I have never known community like what we have here. Like, I mean, really intrinsically connected community where everybody is willing everybody to succeed. Now, Cornwall is obviously a southwest tourist-based transient kind of district, and we have the same kind of parochial problems, I guess, that Devon has to a degree. I feel in Cornwall somehow, and I won't downtread it, because Falmouth is a very big exception to the rule. Falmouth is a very special place run by very great people. Richard Wilcox at the Falmouth Bid and the people who kind of manage the economy of Falmouth Business District are great. But before that, I had experiences in Cornwall of a lot of parochial kind of attitudes, fence building, like, this is my, get off my land, this is my land, and there wasn't any kind of real kind of reciprocated transfers of energy between businesses. And in Southampton, there were so many businesses. When we went up there trying to deploy our our corporate membership scheme was impossible. Businesses don't really talk to other businesses. It's not very easy to network. At least we haven't found that. We came to Torquay, and oh my God, it's like on another planet. We could quite literally have not done business in Torquay without the support of the business community in Torquay. They were right there. Everything from kind of the more corporate style networking, which is how we started. You know, we got some really good support early days with our kind of supply chain and stuff like that. But just in general, the encouragement and the kind of word of mouth sentiment that exists in Torquay's business community, which then extends into Torquay's business community's customers, that has been hypercritical for our business. This really has been a test of time for us, because it's taken all of this much time for the business community to trust who we are and what we do, get to know even what we do, to then pass that information on to their customers, who then come and try us out. They give us a chance. And if we are what we say their friends said we are, then it's all good. They're in. You know, they got it. They support us so hard. And the community has just, it's made me so proud to be here. People like have been, I've heard in the early days, I heard so much like downtreading bull BS about this town, because I guess if you just walk through the high street, it very much looks like dilapidated and full of poverty and stuff. But Wesup gave people this oasis, this island for people like you and me to be and come down and go, oh man, this is what this town deserves. This is what this town needs. We need more opportunity to consume coastal culture and be a part of something and raise the energy, raise the level of consciousness. And that is what Wesup has done naturally. And you guys have all been there to just answer it. That's where community and talking's been amazing.
I think that's something that's missing from a lot of towns and a lot of villages. And I think we've been doing it wrong for a really long time. I think the council, for me, are a little bit disengaged. There's not really a face you can really. I'm sure there is, but it's not very well known.
Charlie, sorry to cut you off there, because we had a really bad experience with the council to begin with, but then we understood. Well, I had a really good chat with Martin, who's the head of Torbay Culture, and he was introduced to us, and he explained how the council really operate in a town like Torquay or in a region like Torbay. There is so many fundamental things that need to happen if a town is going to redevelop and regenerate itself. There's a lot of kind of bureaucracy and political stuff that happens with kind of first base civil services. And it's an enormous amount of work to do when a council isn't being very well funded by central government.
Of course.
So I actually, although there's a certain character at the council who we won't talk about, but we actually have had really great experiences with people like Alan Denby and Kim at Torbay Development Agency, anyone who's involved in Torbay culture, and the people who are involved in licensing. Who knew licensing? Alcohol licensing people are really nice. I thought they were really scary. But we've had
working with them.
Good experiences when you're trying to do something that is really good and really positive. Now, Torbay Council and the TDA are changing tack slightly in their ability to enable businesses like ours and other businesses that are, you know, looking to support the town's regeneration without causing a financial burden to the town's coffers. You know, we've not looked for any financial support from them. We're just looking for them to enable what we want to achieve. So we've come at it with passion and with rigor, with a really good plan. And I'm really proud to say that actually Torbay Council and the TDA are getting behind us. And I feel really confident with the local community, with the support of the council. I don't know what their historical problems are, but I do know that you don't go forward by always looking back. So there is no point worrying about the historical issues in the council. We just got to move forward with what we can do now.
I think that's what I was getting at, was that it's what you guys have demonstrated is a fresh way and a fresh approach of communicating with the community, because you've opened up effectively a coffee shop and a lifestyle brand. You bought your paddle boarding centre down here. And as a result of actually being within the community, listening to the community, you have fulfilled voids and holes where there were large holes and voids. One, just having a platform for the community to come and talk. I've been to a number of your sort of like business chats where people sort of come together. It's not as corporate as it sounds, but you know, local businesses come together to sort of talk to each other and see how we can support each other. I've heard of some horror stories of other sort of other setups, similar platforms, but they're like, what do you bring to the table, and can you, you're guaranteeing people work, etc. It wasn't like that. It was literally just a conversation between business owners and talking about the pressures. And you were offering free coffee. It was just, you've been integral to the community. For me, like you played a huge part in making me feel part of a community, whereas before I felt just like just plodding away every day, just get on to the next job, not knowing what other people are really doing. But you guys gave it this approach and this perspective in terms of the community aspect that I hadn't been accustomed to, and it was so welcome and necessary and valuable. And that's main reasons why I wanted to get you on, because you guys are just, you're listening, you're not just doing, you haven't got like you're not on a crusade, you're not on a mission to sort of be financially successful. Like I really feel like you want to be successful in your own right, but a massive part of that is the community that you're bringing with you and supporting.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
And on top of that, the way you guys communicate with each other and engage with each other and engage with your customers, I find it refreshing, and it gives me a sense of happiness and elation inside. So yeah, there you go.
Thank you so much.
That's all the circle jerking I'm going to do. You guys are heroes for me. Love you guys.
Yeah, Harry and I are both very humbled by the support that we've gotten from, you know, the immediate customer base that uses the cafe. Everyone who comes into the coffee house have become friends of ours. You know, it's way more than a customer transaction. This is like a really deep, meaningful, sustainable relationship that we've had with everybody, and it's effortless and it's beautiful. And we've seen so many people who have been away to work in London, and then they've come back because they want a better lifestyle for themselves, and they found us and they've gone, yes, like something that I can put some roots in. There's a foundation here. This is something to build from. And that quite literally is where we're going now. You know, we've set the roots, we've built a foundation, we feel like it's really solid, COVID or not, we've got a foundation, a platform there. And we're really excited to kind of build out and move forward with this kind of objective, this mission, which is to define the culture of stand-up paddleboarding in this town, but more so extend that opportunity by way of allowing our customers, our friends, to consume coastal culture in Torquay. Because I think that perspective of looking from the sea back at the land is something that's so radical. It can change your whole entire approach, your whole vista on where you live. And you can immediately fall in love with Torquay from just going for one glide, looking back at the marina or the beach or that secret cove you found, and just take a breath, look at the colors, feel the water, feel the wind. And then you're like, whoa, I've been in Torquay all this time and I've not done that. How?
Yeah.
Enabling that. That's it.
You really are, in a really cost-effective manner. Because how else would you do it? You can't just pick up a windsurf and just surf around. Like, paddleboarding is so accessible, so accessible. And you know, do you just do sort of turn up and go for a little ride, or do you have to become a member? Can you discuss like your membership platform or tariff?
Do some plugging for our memberships. We could do it.
No, I'm a member, 100%.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, what we really want is for people to fall in love with it and become members. When you become part of our club, you're paying such a nominal fee for what you really get out of it. You know, you can pay £40 a month, or if you're an early bird at the very beginning of the season, you can pay it off in one go. And that gives you access to all of our boards 7 days a week within our opening times. But the real value comes in being part of the club and part of our community. So we host some amazing activities. We do yoga, we go on adventures. We do like just club paddle nights. We have barbecues on our sun terrace. lots of partying is involved. You have to like partying. And it's just like bringing people together and doing something which is meaningful. You know, working a hard shift and coming down to Wesup and jumping on a board for an hour, like, I can only speak for myself, but that hour is so needed for my own life. I just can't see me living without having to be able to have that experience anymore.
Mate, perfectly said. 100%.
I just want to add to that. You know, recently we've been talking collectively about how we're going to inspire people to come paddleboarding when all of this is done. And we were initially sat having this meeting talking about, oh, well, we could do buy one, get one frees, and we could give away a t-shirt for people who bought a membership, and we can do all of this kind of fiscally led stuff. But in the end, guys, you know, to anyone who's watching this, the benefits of being a part of Wesup far, far, far surpass the exchange of money. Like, that thing is nothing compared to the sense of positive mental health you achieve from going paddleboarding and completely releasing your entire universe worth of tension. The physical health you get from doing something that just gives you some really base exercise. You can go really hard or you can go real soft, whatever suits your dynamic. You can engage with your natural environment and really connect to what it feels like to be on the water or to look back at the land from that amazing new perspective. You're going to learn new skills. You're going to meet new friends. You're going to just find something that you will find so irresistible that you will just want it to be a part of your life. There's no way around it. When everyone comes paddleboarding, everybody thinks, the first thing everyone thinks when they go off the water is, how can I make more time for paddleboarding in my life? And Wesup enables you to do that. You join the club, you've got easy, quick access to our equipment that's down on the pontoon. You can come and use it on your own, or you can be a part of our club activities. But whatever happens, you're doing and you're consuming lifestyle really positively on your terms. And that is something that we're going to be really pushing when we come out the side of that. And I think that now it's never been more prevalent to think about what we really need as humans. We want contact with each other and we want contact with the natural environment. And Wesup is just one channel where you can get all of those things and an abundant more stuff.
Yeah.
Immediately for 15 quid if that's all you want, you know, like whatever.
And we sell this.
Sorry, say that one again, mate. I may have cut you out. Say that again.
We have Prosecco as well.
And you sell Prosecco. You do. You have a fully licensed registered bar. It's great. I think you've touched on a real good point. I think we'll sort of wrap it up in a sec. But with regards to sort of the COVID-19 pandemic and where it's at, it sort of forced us into a state of having to sort of be with our loved ones and our partners, or maybe be isolating by ourselves. And that's where this platform dawned. Its inception was as a result of, you know, people being on their own and communicating and doing FaceTime chats and sort of wanted to stay in contact. And it sort of then started this joke into, oh, I'll see you down the pub, referring to FaceTime and just having a beer with each other. And then the platform grew. And then we had DJs, and then we started having people chatting and talking, and it's just sort of grown into this thing. And what this COVID-19 pandemic has done for me, at least, is it's reconnected me to friends on a fundamental basis, on a communication basis, on just talking, getting back with, not filling your life with going off and doing something incredible, like going off for drives or going to nice fancy restaurants. It's all that, I call it the chaff. It's not chaff, but I call it the chaff. It's been removed, and you're left with this really bare relationships based on purely communications, just sitting there talking to your phone for 45 minutes or listening to us natter on for, what is it now, an hour and a half. It's really, I found it a really cathartic process, and then now to be able to do that with you guys when this is all over, to be able to have that community which I've gained from this platform, and to also be able to indulge in the great outdoors from that vista, as you so greatly and eloquently put it, like this new vista of Torbay or wherever you are, you know, whether you're Cornwall, anywhere in the world, you know, paddleboarding is a new perspective on the area that you live, and to be able to do that with the community that we've sort of all been building as a result of COVID-19 is such a special opportunity, a special time, and I really cannot wait for us to be able to open up our doors and for us to be able to walk out, excuse the horrible cliche type thing, but hand in hand, effectively go and hug your mates and then go down and have a Prosecco down at Wesup and also be able to get on your paddleboard and then come back and have a DJ set or do whatever. It's just, I think it's a new dawn for a new era, and I think the business is going to. I really pray and hope, but I really can feel it. That it's got a new energy and a new feel about it as a result of this pandemic.
Nice one, man. Thank you so much for having us, mate. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say?
Just for me, like, yeah, massive respect to you guys at the virtual pub. It's so needed what you're doing. Bringing everyone together, mate, is what it's all about, isn't it? I've certainly done a lot of sort of self-reflection over the last few weeks, learning a lot about myself, reading a lot, spending a lot of time with my wife, and just enjoying the present moment, not thinking about the future or the past. I think that's the one thing for me.
Yeah. Guys, thank you. Sean, how are you? Any final words?
I got a couple of tips and then a bit of paddleboard safety, if you don't mind.
100%. Mate, your show.
My top tip for being on lockdown is to find a routine and give your day purpose. Get up in the morning, do exercise or whatever you're going to do with your morning, and then go get dressed and make yourself look boss, like you're going to go out and just do whatever you can do to nourish yourself, eat well, be healthy, and try and find things to do that are meaningful, you know, like learn a new skill or do that piece of work to enhance the business that you've always wanted. Like get stuck in and get motivated. It just makes the weeks fly by. So lockdown's been pretty fun, you know, like appreciate all those amazing moments you've got to laugh with your girlfriend and take the mick out of each other. Have day sex or do whatever. And then my tip, my safety brief to the world of paddleboarders. I feel like I should talk to everybody who's interested in using the water at the time of COVID for their exercise. I know the government advice is really clear about going outside and social distancing and only getting an hour's worth of exercise. And I've questioned many times as the sun has been booming in through my window, how on earth is paddleboarding more dangerous, than cycling, right? Like, so this is to everybody who's interested in going kayaking or paddleboarding and is wondering the same thing. If you can go outside for an hour exercise, zooming around on the roads on your road bikes while there's still quite evidently a lot of cars that could hit you off, which in turn will promote an opportunity for the emergency services to be called and take up capacity on the NHS. I totally get that. That's not the point. The point is about leading by example, because if you go out on the water just because you think you're safer than you are cycling, yes, you do put yourself at a nominal risk, but you're setting a precedence that it's okay for everybody else. And the other thing is that although we all feel very detached from the reality of COVID-19, however you want to look at a conspiracy or what's really going on in the world, none of that matters. The point is there are a lot of people dying, and there are a lot of people working really hard to help us all get through this. So whilst we're on our sofas, there are thousands of people who are working on our behalf to try and either normalize our lives the best they can by keeping the shops and supply chain open, or by quite literally working on the very front line trying to save our asses. And it is not fair for those guys to come home after a 12, 14, 15, 16-hour shift when people are dying around them to see amazing pictures of us having a great time out on the water or whatever else we're doing. It's just not very respectful. You're never going to get a very good reciprocated level of energy from doing something like that. So my advice to anyone who's thinking about going paddling, no matter how flat the water looks, how much the sun's shining, if I can stay in my house for 3 weeks and refrain from doing what I love more than anything on this entire planet, then I really strongly think that everybody is capable of doing that.
Yeah. A big hats off to the services, the NHS services, the support workers, the key workers, electricians, plumbers. You guys are all doing an amazing job, and it's our duty to, as eloquently as Sean's just said, to just to be safe and to practice respectful, isolation. Just don't be daft, don't be silly. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Guys in the comments, thank you so much for your questions. Kate Louise, thank you again for last week. I'm going to tie it up and say thank you very much. Thank you, much appreciated, guys. I'll put all the details and all the comments and all the relevant material from the conversation in the comment section or on a post shortly. But guys, from myself, from the pub team, virtual pub team, and from Wesup, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.